Another Phillies player will represent Team USA in the 2026 upcoming World Baseball Classic, and that is newcomer Brad Keller. He will pitch for Team USA. The Phillies signed Brad Keller this offseason to that 2-year, $22 million contract out of the bullpen, so hopefully he's a good addition for them. And it's another Philly that we get to watch on Team USA for the World Baseball Classic. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber also on Team USA, and Bryce Harper as well. So the Phillies are represented. That's exciting. Welcome to Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Hennelly. Make sure you guys subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. Now, I wish I could say this is kind of a happy, exciting video for you guys today, but unfortunately, that is not the case here in Philadelphia. It's kind of down times here right now, kind of almost shock and disbelief here as well, being a Phillies fan with the recent action around Major League Baseball, particularly in the National League and particularly in the NL East, the Phillies division. The worst possible outcomes happened here. And obviously the Phillies, not bad for them. They didn't make a bad move, but they didn't make the move that we all thought, and it was rumored to seem like they were favorites and going to make. Unfortunately, first of all, one of the top free agents available, probably the top free agent available by many people who thought so heading into this offseason, Kyle Tucker, outfielder, left-handed hitter. Now, was linked to the Phillies at times. Didn't make too much sense because he was looking for, obviously, a lot of money that the Phillies just don't necessarily have to spend right now. He's also a left-handed hitter, which they don't really need another one of those, especially in the outfield, especially as a corner outfielder. But nonetheless, they weren't really in seriously on Kyle Tucker really at all, but the Dodgers of all teams, of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the back-to-back reigning World Series champion Dodgers, they signed Kyle Tucker to a 4-year, $240 million contract. Massive contract for Kyle Tucker. He goes out there and the Dodgers keep on getting better. The rich get richer, and they will probably be one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the World Series in 2026 as well, going for a three-peat. Absolutely ridiculous, but they're trying to win baseball games. They're trying to win championships. They're making the moves to do so by all means necessary. So there's that Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers. And then the one that kind of was punchy in the gut, knock you while you're down kind of thing here with the Phillies. Bo Bichette, obviously heavily linked to the Phillies, especially as of late here, as spring training is nearing. Bo Bichette seemed like a lock to the Phillies. And then all of a sudden, the New York Mets, after they were seriously in on Kyle Tucker, after they missed out on the Kyle Tucker sweepstakes, who went to the Dodgers, as I just said, they swept in last minute, and they signed Bo Bichette to a 3-year, $126 million contract. That is the Mets stealing him, quote unquote, from the Phillies. Now, again, they were in on Kyle Tucker. They pivoted last minute, went for one of the next best, if not the best free agent available at the time. Got Bo Bichette from the Phillies and other teams that were in on him as well. Bob Nightingale, he reported, which made it feel so much worse at the time because obviously, again, the Phillies, all the experts, all the insiders made it seem like they were favorites to sign Bo Bichette, and the deal was all but done. Bob Nightingale, one of the more well-known, credible MLB journalists, insiders, whatever you want to call them, he reported after that Bo Bichette signing with the Mets, he reported that the Phillies did actually meet Bo Bichette's request of a 7-year, about $200 million contract right before the Mets obviously pivoted last minute from Kyle Tucker after missing out on him and went after Bo Bichette right before the Mets swept in, signed Bo Bichette right out from under the Phillies, and it was just it's really frustrating. It did not feel good here as a Phillies fan. Bo Bichette, interestingly, will play third base apparently with the Mets. He's never played third base at the professional level. Only been a shortstop. He played second base in this past World Series for the Blue Jays against the Dodgers. He was open to playing second base heading into free agency. He told teams that were interested in him. So he has experience, obviously, as a shortstop, was willing to play second base, and he'll interestingly play third base, apparently, with the Mets. So there's that. Maybe that turns out for a good thing for them. Maybe it doesn't. There's also opt-outs in his contract, so maybe it doesn't work out for the Mets. He gets his $42 million or whatever it is in 2026, and he says, hey, I'm out of here. He moves on to a different team. Maybe the Phillies are interested in him again next year if he does opt out. But right now, worst possible outcomes for the Phillies with Kyle Tucker joining the back-to-back World Series champion Dodgers, arguably the Phillies' biggest competition in the National League. And then Bo Bichette, Mets. Oh my gosh, just not a good kind of time here for Phillies fans for this offseason. And with that, has it been a failed offseason for the Phillies to this point? Obviously, the offseason is not over. Obviously, there's still more time to make moves. But with all pretty much the top free agents off the board now, the Phillies really don't have anyone or anywhere to make a big splash kind of move. Probably not going to make any trades at this point either, or any more trades, I should say. They did obviously trade Matt Strahm away this offseason, but it just feels like that it's been a failed offseason. Now, we were all hoping and expecting for some big changes. Probably wasn't really going to happen, but after obviously having great regular seasons the past 2 years, winning the National League East the past 2 years, and then losing in the first round of your playoffs in 2024 to the Mets, and now this past year in 2025 to the Dodgers and the NLDS, the core of this Phillies team is only getting older. So we were kind of hoping that there was going to be some changes, some drastic, some significant changes to the Phillies roster, to the Phillies lineup. But it looks like they are running it back here in 2026 with largely the same group. They were linked to multiple high-profile free agents this offseason, obviously Bo Bichette being one of them, some trade candidates as well. Didn't really get any of those players, obviously. Dave Dombrowski, the Phillies president of baseball operations, he did say at the beginning of the winter meetings that the Phillies wouldn't run it back in 2026. And again, it's looking like, obviously, again, they've made some moves, got rid of some guys, brought in some new faces. But for the most part, the group is going to be the same in 2026, barring something completely unexpected. So despite what he said, the Phillies are running it back. And it's really just makes a lot of fans, including myself, very annoyed, very frustrated with this team's offseason. The notable additions, obviously, were Adolis Garcia in right field, the veteran, who, for the one-year deal they signed, who could be a good piece for them. He's had a lot of prior success. He's a big power threat, really good defender, but streakiness at the plate, strikes out a ton. Getting older, obviously. Who knows if he can kind of get some of that magic back that he had, especially in 2023 with the Rangers. So you don't know what you're really getting out of him. Brad Keller as well. I mentioned him in the beginning of the episode. The reliever, bullpen addition. He's going to be solid for the Phillies, or should be, in their bullpen. They made some other moves as well. Notable losses and likely losses for the Phillies. Ranger Suarez, he's with the Boston Red Sox now. Matt Strahm, I mentioned. They traded him away to the Kansas City Royals. And then Harrison Bader, who isn't on a team right now. He's still a free agent, but it feels like maybe now they can shift back to Harrison Bader after missing out on Bo Bichette. But to this point, it still feels like Harrison Bader probably won't be back. But who knows? Hopefully he is back, because he was a big addition for them at the trade deadline this past year. We all know how that went for them. They obviously brought back Kyle Schwarber and recently JT Realmuto on new deals. Kyle Schwarber getting that 5-year, $150 million contract, re-signing JT Realmuto the other day to a 3-year, $45 million contract. Then that can reach up to $60 million for him. The Phillies got what they wanted with that JT Realmuto contract, $15 million a year. Realmuto got what he wanted. He was looking for closer to $20 million. So with that potential of reaching to $60 million, that puts you at a $20 million a year pace if you can hit those marks. So still, 35-year-old declining catcher. Will he play at the same level, or what would the level of play of JT Realmuto look like trying to catch every day as a 35-year-old catcher? And then those next 2 years, 36, 37, hard to believe he's going to be that great. Obviously, again, declining offensively and defensively. He's great with the pitching staffs, but he's kind of a shell of his former self. So maybe with that potential of his contract reaching that $60 million mark as opposed to the $45 million that the Phillies signed for him for these 3 years, maybe that adds an extra level of kind of determination for Realmuto to up his game and play a lot better, even though he's getting older, even though he's shown signs of regressing and declining as you expected as you get older. Still one of the better all-around catchers in baseball, despite his age, despite his decline here over the past couple of years. But catchers aren't typically known as offensive threats, so that's really why JT Realmuto's still in that game, because he does provide you some better qualities, I guess you could say, out of the catcher position for him offensively. But that's what it is. And again, it just feels like a failed offseason with this Phillies team running it back with the core group. They're an older group. Obviously, they're going to have some of these younger faces up here, and Andrew Painter, Justin Crawford, maybe Aiden Miller, maybe a couple other guys at some point this year in 2026. But still, the core group is pretty much the same. And it's just, you can you can be mad at it because they were linked to so many of these guys, but you also can't be horribly mad at it because obviously we do know the Phillies are a great team. They're one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, obviously one of the best in the National League. Again, back-to-back NL East champions the past 2 years. Great regular seasons. They had the second best record in all of Major League Baseball this past year in 2025. Unfortunately, just the playoff success the past 2 years hasn't been there for the Phillies, which is the frustrating part, but still one of the best teams in baseball, so it's really hard to be mad about them not making big, huge moves, but it's also very annoying because the teams that are also their top competitions are making these big moves despite already being great, despite winning World Series like the Dodgers. They're still adding a talent like Kyle Tucker. So are the Phillies falling behind in the National League competition here in Major League Baseball? Again, Dave Dombrowski, the Phillies president of baseball operations, John Middleton, their owner, they're committed to winning and spending money. John Middleton famously quoted or saying, spending stupid money, all that kind of stuff. He wants to bring a World Series championship back here to Philadelphia, have a parade on Broad Street, but they're failing to do so. They're failing to win it all. They're failing to make these necessary moves that other teams are willing to make, like the Mets getting Bo Bichette, like the Dodgers signing Kyle Tucker, like them making other moves as well. Obviously, the Phillies missed out on all the top free agents this free agent class. Obviously, other than bringing back Kyle Schwarber, he was right up there with them. So that was a good move by them. And then you let them go to your top competition. Again, Kyle Tucker to the Dodgers, one of their top competitions in the National League, and then straight in your division, National League East, the New York Mets getting Bo Bichette. So it's really just, again, frustrating. I can't find any other words to say. That is the best explanation here for it. Just very frustrating seeing these guys go to the Dodgers and the Mets. The Dodgers got better, already being back-to-back World Series champions. They've been to so many, they won World Series, 2020 as well. So 3 World Series in the past 5 years. They've been to the playoffs for like 12 straight years or some crazy number like that. They always are getting better, and it's crazy, honestly, how they keep getting this talent. Maybe that's another topic of conversation for another day, but still, they got better this offseason. The Mets, they lost a few notable players this offseason, but they also brought in a few notable players, so kind of you could say they got better. They brought in Bo Bichette, they brought in Marcus Semien, they brought in Jorge Polanco, they brought in Devin Williams, the closer, and they brought in Luke Weaver, another pitcher. So they made some notable additions. They arguably got better this offseason as well. The Braves, although they didn't have a great year this past year in 2025, they dealt with some injuries, some big injuries, but they're still a threat in the National League East. Other teams in the National League are very good as well. So the Phillies not only have more competition than these teams right there at the top with them, got better this offseason, but the Phillies, their own division, you can pretty much say that the Phillies have the potential to be a third-place team in the National League East this year. Again, they're a great team, but still, the Mets making all these notable additions, especially the Bo Bichette recent signing, they're obviously right up there with you. And the Braves, again, they are a very talented team that are probably going to bounce back in 2026 and be in the conversation for the National League East title. Playoff team, World Series caliber team as well there in Atlanta. So the Phillies could finish third place in the National League East. Hopefully they don't. Hopefully they finish first, they get another NL East title, and they have playoff success here in 2026. But still, a lot of teams are good, including your immediate competition in your own division. So what's next for the Phillies after this kind of failed offseason? It feels like not really many options out here for the Phillies to drastically change their roster. Again, barring something unexpected, most likely going to run it back here in 2026 with the same roster for the most part. Again, they were willing to spend a lot of money on a guy like Bo Bichette, so why don't you put that money towards bringing back Harrison Bader? You're looking for another right-handed option. He's a right-handed hitter. He can platoon or be an everyday kind of guy there for you, either in center field, left field. You got Adolis Garcia in right field. So that makes your outfield so much better. He's obviously elite defensively. He was great with the Phillies offensively in those 2 months after the trade from the Twins during the regular season there at the deadline. Kind of an outlier from his career offensive production, but still, maybe he found something clicked for him in Philly there, and bringing him back on a 1 or 2 year deal could help out this Phillies team dramatically here for the 2026 season. Makes your outfield so much better. Probably a strength of the team if you bring back Harrison Bader. So maybe you put some of that money you're willing to spend on Bo Bichette towards Harrison Bader, and that'll make a lot of fans happy, including myself. You could sign Cody Bellinger. He's probably the top free agent available left. But again, he's a left-handed hitting outfielder. The Phillies could use another outfielder, but Left-handed hitter, you already have Brandon Marsh. You have Justin Crawford, your top prospect as a left-handed hitter there. In the outfield, you're probably not trying to bring in another left-handed option because then it's just you're going to sign him to a ton of money. The Yankees reportedly offered him like a 5-year, $155 or $160 million contract. So that's a big financial commitment signing a guy like Cody Bellinger. He's older, about 30 or so years old. And again, just doesn't really seem likely for the Phillies to spend that money and commit to a guy like Cody Bellinger. Again, being a left-handed hitter specifically, you could sign Eugenio Suarez, the free agent third baseman. He's one of the top free agents available still as well, but he's 34 years old. You'd obviously have to trade Alec Bohm to bring in a guy like Eugenio Suarez. So why would you trade a younger Bohm who, despite probably not the same level of production offensively, especially from a power standpoint that Suarez brings, he's younger, and at this point in their careers, Alec Bohm could be the better player and more potential than Suarez. Obviously not the same power threat, but all around probably better option for your team having Alec Bohm there. And the DH possibility is not there for a guy like Eugenio Suarez because you brought back Kyle Schwarber. So that's not really an option there. Not many difference makers for the Phillies to sign at positions of needs here for the remainder of the offseason. So again, likely running it back, which is very frustrating for us Phillies fans. But hopefully this team can still play at a high level in 2026. Hopefully they can win the National League East again. Hopefully they can actually have some playoff success. And we are hoping for a 2026 World Series championship because although this was kind of a frustrating and rant-full episode here today, again, the Phillies are a great team and they are a championship caliber team. Whether you think so or not, they have the team to do it. They have the coaching staff. They have the players. So hopefully we have something good here for the Phillies here in 2026. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Kennelly. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. Much appreciated as always. And as always, go Phils.